She moved the wand off my stomach so fast that the gel made a small wet sound when it left my skin. The room had been the small dim ultrasound room. Soft hum of the machine. Screen turned away from me. Bridget, the technician, had been doing her measurements in that careful silence techs work in. 4 minutes of small clicks, small adjustments, small lines drawn on the screen with the trackball. Then she stopped. She looked at the screen for 6 seconds without moving. She set the wand in the holder. She picked up the small folded towel on the edge of the table. She put it in my hand. Get dressed. Quickly. I sat up on my elbows. Bridget, is something wrong with the baby? She didn't answer right away. She walked to the door and looked through the small window. She didn't turn back to face me. The baby is fine. The baby is measuring exactly where it should be. The heartbeat is 148. Everything is perfect. She paused. Tova, the man in the waiting room, the one who drove you here. He's not your husband. I sat all the way up, Bridget. Of course he's my husband. We've been married 4 years. I know what my husband looks like. She turned from the door. Her face was the wrong color. She walked back to the machine. She turned the screen toward me. Look, I looked. The screen had the baby on it. The small curved profile. The small hand near the face. The little spine. The fluttering pulse where the heart was. All of it was fine. In the lower right corner of the screens was a small text box. The box read Patient, Halvorsen Tova. DOB 3-49091. Referring physician, Dr. Nora Mari. Insurance verified by Magnus Halvorsen's spouse. Identity verified by spouse photo ID at intake. The box also had a small thumbnail photograph next to the word spouse photo ID. The thumbnail was a driver's license photograph of a man. The man in the photograph was not my husband. The man in the photograph was the man in the waiting room. I had been calling him Magnus for the last 6 weeks. I held the towel against my chest. Bridget, that has to be his photo. He showed his license at the front desk. That's the system pulling his license photo. It's the system pulling a license photo. It's not his license photo. What does that mean, Tova? Before nursing school, I worked at the DMV. 6 years. I was the woman who took the photos. I know how DMV photos look. I know what the lighting looks like. I know how the gray backdrop renders. I know the exact compression the state system uses. She tapped the thumbnail with her fingernail. This is not a DMV photograph. The lighting is wrong. The backdrop is the wrong shade of gray. The shadow under the chin is from a soft light source. The state uses an overhead fluorescence that throws shadow at a different angle. Somebody made this photograph to look like a DMV photo. They got into the state system and replaced the photograph attached to your husband's real license number. The license number checks out. The face on it now is not your husband's face. She looked at me, and I know this face. I have seen this face before, twice in the last 6 months. Both times it was attached to a different woman's husband. The room got cold, not the actual room. The room in my chest. The small inside room where the body keeps the parts of itself it does not show in public. I said, where? Right here, this office. Both women came in for ultrasounds. Both women had husbands who walked them in. Both husbands had photographs attached to their intake that were not DMV photographs. I noticed both times. I did not say anything either time. I went home. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I was reading too much into a small thing. I have not been sleeping since the second one. Today is the third. I am not going to be quiet today. She looked at the screen again, then back at me. Tova. Both of those women are no longer pregnant. Both of them are also no longer with the men they came in with. The actual husbands of those women are also, by what I have been able to find on the news, not in the news. Nobody is reporting them missing. Nobody is reporting anything. I do not know what is going on. I have been carrying this for 3 weeks. I am sorry I waited until you were on my table to act on it. I am sorry, Tova. I should have said something the first time. I pulled the gown closed over my stomach. Bridget, what do I do? You stay here. I am going to step out. I am going to ask the front desk to keep him in the waiting room. They are going to tell him the doctor needs to speak with him about a billing thing. He will be brought to the small office across from the lab. 2 officers are going to meet him there. I have already pressed the silent alert under the front counter. The officers were already on their way before I walked back in here. They got here 90 seconds ago. They are at the front of the building. They came in plain clothes. The man does not know they are here. How did you press an alert before I came in? I pressed it the moment your intake came up on my screen, and I recognized the face in the thumbnail. I was paged to your room 2 minutes later. I came in, I scanned you. I did the measurements for the baby. Because the baby is the only thing in this room that does not require waiting for the police. The baby is fine. The baby is genuinely fine. I needed you to know that before anything else. She moved to the door. Lock this from the inside the moment I close it. I will knock 4 times when it is safe to open. Anybody else knocks, you do not answer. The exam room walls do not carry sound to the hallway. You can cry if you need to. You can also call your mother if you have her on a phone in this room. I would suggest you do not call anybody until I come back. I will be 10 minutes. I am sorry, Tova. I am going. She walked out, the door closed. I locked it. I sat on the table with the towel against my chest, and the gel still drying on my stomach, and the screen of the ultrasound machine still showing my baby, and the photograph of a man who's not my husband. I did not cry. I have wondered in the months since why I did not cry in that moment. I think it was because some part of me had been waiting for this. Some part of me had been waiting since the airport. 6 weeks earlier, my husband had gone to Norway. His mother was sick. He was the only son. He had flown out on a Tuesday morning. I had driven him to the airport. We had stood at the curb for 40 seconds. He had held my face in his hands. He had said, "I'll be back in 2 weeks, maybe sooner. I love you. Take care of our girl." He had patted my stomach. He had gone in. I had cried in the car on the way home. He had called me from his mother's apartment that night. She was bad. She was worse than the doctors had told him on the phone. She had stopped eating. He was going to try to get her to eat. He sounded tired. He called me again Wednesday. He called me again Thursday. Friday he called and said his mother had taken a turn. He was going to stay longer than 2 weeks. He did not know how much longer. He would let me know. Saturday he texted, "Call you tomorrow." He did not call Sunday. He did not call Monday. I texted him Monday night. "Everything okay?" A reply came back at 3 in the morning my time. "Sorry, long day. Mom in and out. I love you. We'll call soon." He did not call. 3 days later he sent another text. "Coming home Tuesday. Booked the flight. I love you. Hold on." I held on. Tuesday afternoon I drove to the airport. He came through the small sliding doors at international arrivals at 4:11 in the afternoon. He had his small carry-on. He had his coat on his arm. He looked, in the small flat lighting of the arrivals corridor, exactly like my husband. Same hair, same height, same build, same coat, same small scar on his left eyebrow, same wedding ring. He saw me. He walked over. He set the carry-on down. He hugged me. The hug was the wrong hug. I do not know how to describe it. My husband hugs me with his left arm tighter than his right. He has always done it. He does it because his left shoulder was injured in college, and the small inside muscle there is slightly tighter. The hug from him has always come a little harder on my right side. The hug at the airport came harder on the left. It came harder on the left for a fraction of a second, and then the man hugging me adjusted, and the hug got harder on the right, and the hug became, by every other measure, my husband's hug. I did not notice the adjustment. I noticed it later, the way you notice things later, when you are sitting on an exam table 6 weeks after the airport with a towel held against your chest. He picked up the bag. He took my hand. We walked to the parking garage. He asked about the baby. I told him about the baby. We got in the car. I drove home. He had been home 3 weeks when the appointment was scheduled. He had been, in those 3 weeks, almost exactly the man I had married. The almost was the part that had been working on me. The first night home, I made him a soup he had asked me to make on one of his last calls. He sat at the table. He picked up his fork. He picked it up with his left hand. My husband is right-handed. He has been right-handed his entire life. He uses a fork with his right hand. I watched him bring the fork to his mouth with the left. He chewed. He set the fork down. He picked it up again with the right. He did not look at me when he did it. He kept eating. He kept eating with the right hand. He had switched without saying anything. I told myself, sitting at the table, that he had been in Norway for 6 weeks and that maybe he had been eating with the left hand because of his shoulder, or because his right wrist had been hurting, or because of some small specific thing that had happened that he had not told me about yet. I told myself this and I ate my soup. The second day, he brushed his teeth in the wrong order. My husband brushes his bottom teeth first. He has been doing this since I have known him. He has a small specific pattern: bottom front, bottom left, bottom right, top front, top left, top right, tongue. He brushed his top teeth first that morning. I was sitting on the bed reading. The bathroom door was open. I could see him in the mirror. He started on the top. Then he stopped. He stood very still for about 2 seconds. He spat. He started over. He started on the bottom. He went through the rest in the correct order. He did not, for the rest of the time he was in the bathroom, look up at the mirror. I told myself, sitting on the bed, that brushing patterns are not a thing a person can hold on to under stress. I told myself my husband had been at his mother's bedside for 6 weeks. I told myself that some things had moved around in him during those weeks, and that they were going to slowly move back. I told myself this, and I went back to reading my book. The third day, he called the dog Theodora. The dog is Teddy. The dog has never been Theodora to my husband. The dog has been Teddy since the small Saturday in October, when we had picked her up from the rescue and my husband had looked at her and had decided that her papers said Theodora, but her face said Teddy. He had been the one to shorten her name. He had never used the full version. He had never once in 3 years called her Theodora. He called her into the kitchen on the third morning by saying, "Theodora, come." She came. She is a dog. She comes when called regardless. She did, however, look at him for half a second before she came. The kind of small look a dog gives a person who has just said something the dog has not heard them say before. He noticed. He said immediately, "Teddy, sit." She sat. He fed her. He did not call her Theodora again. The small wrongnesses kept adjusting themselves. By the end of the first week, he was eating with the right hand without thinking about it. By the end of the second, he was brushing in the correct order. By the third, he was calling the dog Teddy, and nothing but Teddy. He had also, in those 3 weeks, gotten the small, important things right. He had remembered the name of my mother's neighbor in Phoenix, who he had only met once, briefly, 2 years earlier. He had remembered the small joke about the broken porch swing. He had remembered that my favorite coffee was the one with cardamom in it, and that I only drank it on Sundays. He had remembered every important thing. He had only gotten the small, inconsequential things wrong. I had told myself, in the quiet way you tell yourself things at night when your husband is asleep next to you, that no person remembers every small, inconsequential detail perfectly. I had told myself that the small wrongnesses had been the small wrongnesses of grief and travel, and a long stretch away from home. I had told myself this for 3 weeks. I had told myself this until Brigid had turned the screen toward me and pointed at a thumbnail and said the face had not been my husband's. The knock came in 4 sharp taps. I opened the door. Brigid was in the hallway. A woman in a dark suit was behind her. The woman had a small badge clipped to her belt. The woman said, "Mrs. Halverson, I'm Detective Yara Kassim. I would like to take you to a small office at the back of the building, where we can talk. You are safe. The man who came in with you is in custody. He is in a separate building. He is not within 4 blocks of this clinic. I went with them." The office at the back of the building was small. 4 chairs, a table, a small box of tissues. Detective Kassim closed the door behind us. Brigid sat in the chair next to mine. The detective sat across from us. She had a folder. She put the folder on the table. She opened it. She slid 5 photographs across. "Tova, look at these. Tell me if any of them are the man who came home from Norway." I looked. The 3rd photograph was him. I tapped it. She closed the folder. "You're sure?" "Yes." She took a breath. "The man you have been calling Magnus for the last 6 weeks is named Idris Valinga. He is 41. He has been the subject of a federal investigation for the last 14 months. She looked at me. "The investigation involves an organized operation. The operation works like this. The operation identifies women who are pregnant or trying to become pregnant. The women are in stable marriages. The husbands travel. The operation arranges, by means we have only partly figured out, for the husband to be removed from the picture during the travel. Sometimes by violence, sometimes by something else we are still piecing together. The operation then sends a different man home in the husband's place." I held the edge of the table. She kept going. "The substitute has been studying. He has been studying for months. He has been given access to the husband's email, the husband's text history, the husband's photographs. The substitute knows the household. He knows the routines. He knows the in-laws' names. He knows the dog's name. He knows the small things about the wife that the wife would assume only her husband knows." Brigid had her hand on my arm. Detective Kassim said, "The substitute stays in the woman's life for the duration of the pregnancy. He is, by the women we have been able to interview, a model partner during those months. Attentive, present, excited about the baby. The pregnancy goes to term. The baby is born. The operation at that point takes the baby." I said, "Takes the baby where? The baby is sold. The amount the operation gets is, in the documented cases, between $40,000 and $90,000. The woman, after the baby is taken, is given a story. The story varies. In one case, the substitute told the wife the baby had been taken to NICU and had not survived. In another, he disappeared during her postpartum recovery, and she was told by an intermediary, through a forged note, that he had had a breakdown and had left her. The women are then left to grieve. They grieve a husband they did not actually have for the last several months. They grieve a baby that is, in every case, alive somewhere else. They do not know this. They have, by the operation, been made to grieve." I sat in the chair. I put my hands on my stomach. I said, "Detective, where is my actual husband?" She paused. "We have been looking for him for the last 3 hours. We started looking the moment Brigid called us. The looking has been fast because we already had infrastructure in place from the previous 14 months of this investigation. We have been in contact with Norwegian authorities. They have been at the hospital where your mother-in-law was admitted. She looked at me. Tova. Your mother-in-law is alive. She is in a small care facility in Bergen. She has dementia. She has been in the facility for the last 4 months. She has not, by every available record, been at home ever. The story your husband was told to bring him to Norway was not the actual situation. The hospital records that were emailed to your husband were forged. The phone calls from his sister before he left were not from his sister. His sister has been in Spain for the last year, on a long-term assignment her company has been transparent about. She has not, by her own account in the last hour, been in contact with your husband by phone in 5 months. I said, then who was he talking to? On the phone, before he flew. We do not know yet. We are tracing the calls. The calls came from numbers that were spoofed. We will know in the next few days. I said, where is he? We have been looking for him in Bergen. Norwegian authorities have been at the apartment your husband had been staying in. They got there an hour and 40 minutes ago. Your husband had checked out of the apartment 4 days before he was supposed to fly home. Your husband did not, by Norwegian airport records, get on the flight he was booked on. The man on the flight he was booked on was Idris Velenga, using your husband's passport. The passport's photograph had been replaced. The replacement was done at the apartment your husband had been staying in. The Norwegian forensics team is at the apartment now. She stopped. She looked at me very carefully. Tova, your husband's belongings are still in the apartment. His phone is in the apartment. His wallet is in the apartment. His clothes are in the apartment. The Norwegian police have not yet located him. They are looking. The looking is being done by people who are good at it. We will know more in the next 24 to 48 hours. I am not in this moment going to speculate on outcomes. I am going to tell you that you are now under federal protection. You have been assigned a victim advocate. Her name is Senka. She is going to be at your house in 2 hours with a small overnight bag from your apartment that an officer is packing for you right now. She is going to drive you to a safe location. You are not going back to your apartment tonight. You are not, for the next week, going back to your apartment. We are going to do this slowly, and we are going to do this carefully. I sat in the chair. I did not cry yet. I said, the baby. She said, the baby is fine. The baby is not in this moment in any danger. The operation does not act on the baby until late in the pregnancy. You are at 16 weeks. We have months. We are going to keep you safe for those months. We are going to find your husband in the meantime. We are going to make every decision in front of you, with you, not for you. You are not, at any point in the next 6 months, going to be alone with this. Do you understand? As I said. I started crying. I did not stop for a long time. Bridget sat next to me. She did not say anything. She kept her hand on my arm. I want to skip 7 days. On the 7th day, my husband was found. He was found alive. He had been held in a small basement apartment 3 blocks from the apartment he had been told was his mother's. He had not been physically harmed in any major way. He had been kept on a small set of sedatives administered to him in food. He had been confused for most of the 6 weeks. He had been thin. He had been weak. He had not, by his own later memory, fully understood what was happening to him at any point. He was, by the time the Norwegian police got to him, severely dehydrated and 23 pounds underweight. He was hospitalized in Bergen for 9 days. He was flown home with a medical escort on the 10th day. I picked him up at the airport. I am going to tell you the moment, because I had told myself sitting on the exam table 6 months earlier that I would never tell anybody the moment. I am telling you because what happened in the moment is, more than any other small thing in the last year of my life, the thing that I want a stranger to know. He came through the sliding doors in a wheelchair. The medical escort was pushing him. His head was down. His hair had been cut short by somebody in the Bergen hospital. He had a small blanket over his legs. He looked up. He saw me. He did not for 2 seconds recognize me. Then he did. He started crying. Not the kind of crying that has any sound. The kind of crying that is just water on a face. The water came down both sides of his nose. He did not raise his hands to wipe it. His hands were on the small armrests of the wheelchair, palms up. I walked over. I knelt in front of the wheelchair. I put my hands on his face. I said, it's me. It's really me. I'm here. He said, in a voice that did not sound like his voice, Tova. I said, yes. He said, I knew you would come. I knew. They told me you weren't real. They told me a lot of things. I knew. I said, I'm real. I'm here. He put his hands on top of my hands. He held them against his face. I do not know how long we were there. I know the medical escort eventually, gently, said we needed to get him to the car. I know I stood up. I know I walked behind the wheelchair to the parking lot. I know I drove him home. I know the rest is the rest. The baby was born 5 months after the airport. A girl, met, 8 pounds, 2 ounces. My husband was the parent who held her first. The doctor had asked him if he wanted to. He had said yes. He had cried again, that small soundless crying, the whole time he was holding her. He has held her every day since. Idris Valenga took a plea 4 months ago. The plea required him to name everybody he had worked with. He named 11 people. 6 of them have been arrested. 3 are awaiting extradition. 2 are still being looked for. The operation has been, by federal estimates, dismantled at the level of the people my husband and I were in contact with. There may be other cells. The investigation is ongoing. The 2 other women Bridget had seen 6 months and 3 months before me. Their husbands were never found. They are not, by any definition, missing. They are, by every available indication, dead. The 2 women have been notified. The 2 women are part of the active prosecution. I have not met them. I will not meet them, by the advocate's careful advice, until the trials are over. Their babies have not been recovered. The federal investigators are looking. The babies were sold through 3 different intermediaries. 2 of the trails have gone cold. The 3rd is being followed actively. I am not, in this moment, allowed to share more about it. My husband and I have donated, every month since Met was born, a small portion of our income to the foundation that helps families recover trafficked children. We have made the donation in the names of the 2 other women. We will keep making the donation for the rest of our lives. Met is starting to wake up. I can hear her in the bassinet making the small wet sounds that come before the small cry. My husband is asleep on the couch next to her. He has been sleeping near the bassinet every night since we brought her home 4 months ago. He is not ready yet to sleep in a room that is not within sight of her. I am not asking him to be ready. He will be when he is. There is one specific piece of information I need to give you. The detective and the advocate and I have spent 6 months going back and forth on whether I would say it publicly. We agreed I would. If your partner travels, if you are pregnant or planning to be, if you have a regular pattern of being apart for more than a few days, set up a verification phrase. It takes 90 seconds. The phrase should be something you and your partner agree on in person, with no electronics in the room, not in a text, not in a voice memo, not in a place anybody could ever, by going through your messages or your photos or your social media, find. The phrase should be something neither of you has said in front of any other person. The phrase should be something a stranger studying your relationship would have no way of guessing. When your partner comes back from any trip longer than 3 days, ask for the phrase before you do anything else. Not at the curb, not in front of the kids, privately, in a room, just the 2 of you. If they give you the phrase, the verification ends. They are your partner. If they do not give you the phrase, do not let them know they have failed. Step away. Make any small excuse. Get yourself to a safe place. Call the police. Most couples will never need this. Most couples will never have a reason to think about this. I am telling you, because the operation that took my husband had been operating for at least 3 years before they got to us. The federal investigators have confirmed 11 prior cases. There are likely more. The operation targets stable marriages with traveling partners and predictable women. If you fit that profile, you are not by any measure in immediate danger. You are, however, the kind of person who would benefit from the 90 seconds. The other thing, if you are ever in a medical appointment, and the technician or nurse or doctor acts in a way that breaks the small ordinary pattern of how those appointments go, listen to them. Do not argue. Do not ask for an explanation in the moment. Do what they say. Ask for the explanation later, when you are in a safe place. Bridget had been a technician for 9 years. She had stayed quiet the first 2 times she had seen the face. She had decided, the 3rd time, that she would not stay quiet. The deciding is the deciding that gave my baby a father. The deciding was not, by Bridget's own account in the month since, something that came from her training. Her training had not taught her to interrupt a patient's appointment with a strange instruction. Her training had taught her to do her job and to refer concerns up the chain. She had broken from her training because she had been carrying the previous 2 cases for 3 weeks. She had not been able to carry a 3rd. The medical professionals in your life are not, in most cases, going to interrupt your appointment with strange instructions. If one of them does, listen. Med is crying now. My husband is sitting up on the couch. He is reaching into the bassinet. He is lifting her out. He is holding her against his shoulder. He is patting her small back. He is saying very quietly, Hi, baby. Daddy's here. She knows his voice. She has known it since before she was born. The voice she knows, by every measure that matters, is the right voice. The right voice came home in November. The right voice is in the next room. I am going to go in there now. I am going to make her a bottle. I am going to sit on the floor by the couch. I am going to be where they are.